So moving now to what is our jurisdiction? And again, I refer back to what happened in 1973. The legislature had to decide then what the jurisdiction was going to be. And let me again just sort of emphasize a little bit of history that I think is often necessary to explain jurisdiction. So before 1973, the auditor of government, state and local government, was the public examiner, an appointee of the governor. It was not the state auditor. So here was the situation the legislature faced. We want to create a legislative auditor, and we want to bring the public examiner into the legislative branch. So that's basically what you did. You brought most of the staff from the public examiner, took them from being executive employees, made them legislative employees, and appointed the first legislative auditor. But then you had to say, well, what will be the jurisdiction? And there were many people who felt at that point the legislature should decide to give the state auditor some audit jurisdiction. There were also, frankly, people who proposed at the time that the office of the state auditor should be abolished, as well as the office of the state treasurer. The legislature decided not to abolish either constitutional offices, and so had to really decide what to do with this jurisdictional question. The answer was, we will give the legislative auditor audit jurisdiction over executive agencies, the judicial branch, and a variety of other organizations that are listed here. But we will give the state auditor audit jurisdiction over local government. So the next time that you're at a social event, you will have the answer, which often comes up at social events, and that is, what is the difference between the legislative auditor and the state auditor? And you will be able to remember that the state auditor does not audit the state. The state auditor audits local government. The legislative auditor does not audit the legislature. The legislative auditor audits the executive branch, the judicial branch, higher education, metropolitan agencies, nonprofit organizations, and a lot of other things. So that will be your answer. Now, many of you know what I'm going to say next. And that is, there's another distinction which I think is very important, and that is, as we know, state auditors often go on to greater glory. Mark Dayton was a former state auditor. Arnie Carlson was a former state auditor. Other state auditors have run for governor. And so being state auditor is often a stepping stone to greater glory. As you know, the legislative auditor, the current one sitting in front of you, has been legislative auditor for a long time. And I stay here because there is no greater glory than being legislative auditor. That'll be the end of my jokes.
As it's come to light in the Department of Human Services, and employees have been reluctant to come forward, and we do the term whistleblower. Do you feel agency personnel, because I think they're some of the closest to the challenges we have, feel comfortable coming to you?
You asked specifically about DHS. We are working there a lot right now, particularly related to the Suboxone issue. That's the overpayment for opioid treatment medication. And in the context of those allegations, there were people who came forth in a Senate committee and said that they had raised issues about that and other matters within the Department of Human Services and were retaliated against. We do hear those allegations. It's very difficult sometimes for us to get involved because, as Mr. Alter said, as a general rule, we do not want to be brought into a personnel matter. And another one of the complications is, and this is very difficult to deal with, there may be a legitimate management concern about that employee's performance. And so you have mixed together in there some legitimate concerns, possibly, about the performance of the agency. You have some legitimate concerns about the performance of the individual employee, and you sometimes simply have differences differences of personality, differences of opinion, differences that people have over the direction of a program. And I don't think it's really something we want to necessarily get involved in. But sometimes, frankly, the issue is so serious for the individual and for the department that we may take some action. Typically, what I would do is I would, first of all, ask the individual who has brought this forth what they want us to do. Because any action we take, launch an investigation, or get involved in the personnel matter, it becomes virtually impossible then for us to maintain the confidentiality of their identity. So once they've told us those things, and I can sense there's something there, there's a real issue, I need to get their permission then to do something. And one of the things I might do, have done, with their permission, is go to their supervisor or even the commissioner of a department and say, someone has come forth to us with this concern. This is something I think you ought to be aware of, Commissioner, because this may end up in the paper tomorrow.